81st Coffee Talk of GDC.
I am very much thankful to GDC Tech Forum.
GDC Tech wants to reward those companies who are playing a great role in that.
Teamwork and focusing and helping one another can make a big difference.
Most people give the focus on communication much. So can you just focus on something?
I was based in Chakan for a couple of years, then I relocated to the US. So in that sense, the acquisitions were done through the US company.
Sometimes execution is down, but consistency is hard.
I think Sigma has set some benchmarks in the industry.
Have coffee, have snacks, and chit chat and network. Welcome everybody for today's coffee talk. Today is 81st coffee talk of GDC. Having said that, our today's distinguished speaker is Mr. Viren Joshi. Thank you for coming. Today we'll play a inauguration video. So as you heard, Anilji and RT, YouTube channel is live and you will be able to see everybody actually throughout India, all over the world. We have our sponsor with us, Vipra Alloys. We'll see quickly a 1-minute video of Vipra Alloys introduction.
We are a leading manufacturer of aluminium alloy. We are situated in Chakan industrial area for foundries of GDC, LPDC and HPDC.
So this is our final product. Each lot weighs 560 kg and this is a crane system. We lift it from here and we keep it as per our requirement.
We strive for excellent quality and top-notch service. Thank you for choosing Vipra Alloys.
I will request Vipra's owner, Mr. Balwant Devre, to just say a few words.
Let me introduce myself. I am Balwant Devre. Recently, 2 years back, I got retired from Tata Motors. And then I have started my own business, which is aluminum alloy making, which is Vipra Alloys. About GDC Tech. GDC Tech is a great organization and the purpose of this is to coordinate, bring all the die casting experts on one platform and to share the knowledge. They have just started this YouTube channel through which they are trying to connect all the members across the India. I appeal all these die casters to share, like and subscribe this YouTube channel. Once again, thank you very much.
Hello and good evening everyone. It's my great privilege to introduce such a great personality who we have got today as our esteemed speaker. Mr. Viren Joshi is a name which is familiar to almost all of us, isn't it? And that's what the number of crowd and I'm sure in future the clicks on our YouTube channel will show. We normally say that people having 10,000 hours experience is very experienced. Now we have a gentleman here who has got maybe 100,000 years of experience. He led Parker Hannifin for almost 14 years as India MD. I would request Mr. Viren Joshi to start his highly awaited and anticipated talk. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Namaste. First of all, I'm honored to be here. So I'd like to thank Mr. Kulkarni. I'd like to thank all my esteemed friends and colleagues from GDC for inviting me. And I'd like to thank all of you. I wasn't expecting such a big crowd. Thank you. Really appreciate all of you coming down here. And again, like all the esteemed gentlemen who spoke before me, I've really had a high admiration for Mr. Kulkarni and GDC. I've known him for many, many years. The whole topic is around creating a global world-class engineering company. And from my side, what I did, I focused on many areas, and I'll talk about that. But the one specifically to talk about today is on lean and automation. And as you all know, there's many routes to become excellent. There's many routes to become a good engineering company. And I just believe starting with basics is important. We were talking a little while ago that somebody said we're going to focus on electric vehicles, we're going to focus on something else. And I'm saying all good. But my experience of engineering companies is, and I'm focusing on engineering. My whole world has been in the manufacturing and engineering space in India and abroad. And I believe any company I go to, there's a lot of opportunity for improvement for them. And with that improvement, they themselves will grow and become more successful in India and globally. So that's my mission. That's what I would love to at least transfer that enthusiasm to all of you. And I hope you would take that forward. So as I start, the first thing I'd like to share with all of you is go back into history for 1 minute. Going back to India and 1750. 1750, India had 24.5% of manufactured goods of the global across the globe. Just 50 years later, in 1800, it went down to 20%. Swing forward to the 1919 to just under 2000, we were down to 1.7%. That's how badly we fell, and there are many reasons for it. I'm not getting into that. I'm only trying to leave you with the one message that at one time India had 25% of the manufactured goods all over the world. That was our capability, that was our capacity, that was how good we were in those days. And I'm sure we could bring that back again. So I'm now going to go to the global scenario and look at it the way I see it. China is one of the big giants. It's a great manufacturing entity and will remain that way. And for those of you who have been to China, listened into China, that there are outstanding companies there who are doing amazingly well. And just to share with you, just before COVID and just before what happened in China, I saw an outstanding video from Alibaba of all people. And I'm sure I have that video somewhere at home, and if I have it, I can share it with you guys. It was Alibaba had put together an experimental digitalization robotic program for a textile apparel manufacturing unit. Several thousand people, and they had automated the whole plant, and they brought the efficiency up by multiple levels. And it was such a successful program that their vision was to transfer this across all of China, every manufacturing unit. Then came COVID, then came Alibaba. If you all know, Alibaba got into trouble with the government, and that whole program fell through. I'm not trying to be naughty to say maybe we're all a little safer because of that. That program and that vision that they had would have made China an even more powerful country than what they are today. But that's what China is, in some ways outstandingly successful. I've seen hundreds of Chinese factories which are are most inefficient. And I don't need to get into the story, but you know a lot of the Chinese manufacturing comes from support from the government, from the PLA, from the Chinese army. China, as strong as they are feared today and will remain strong. There'll be a strong fear from the West, from US, from ASEAN countries, from Russia. Their so-called friend of today is fearful of them, and India. So that's going to remain an issue which will affect their trade and their strength. And as I said, I've seen very efficient companies and I've seen very inefficient companies. I've seen the same in having done acquisitions in the US, in Mexico, and in India, including recently. I was involved in a large acquisition for for an Indian company, which is a global leader. Really inefficient from a manufacturing point of view. Wonderful plant, but really inefficient. If I looked at it, I said I can save 20-25% of the cost by just automating and bringing robotics in, and simple money. The payback would have come within a year or two. That amount of inefficiency is there. So that's something I must convey to you, that I've seen so much of it. Each acquisition I did in the US, in Mexico, and in India, each of them, as we went into them, the amount of improvements we could bring by just a few little things, a little bit of automation, a little bit of lean, and then a change in the ERP, and I can go on, just training people, skilling people, it could make a difference. So that's something that we all must be aware of. I come to India now for a moment, politically and from an economic point of view. I truly believe India has become politically more savvy in terms of reaching out and becoming more friends with different countries. More countries want to have trade relationships and free trade agreements with us. So I think our markets will open up. Britain wants to do that. I'm sure hopefully we'll get some good scotch also coming into the country better. But they're really keen to open up. So I think India will have that advantage of a bigger market and ability to export more. My belief is, I've seen from Parker, I've seen from Sigma, foreign investors are willing to come into India, and though we talk a lot about all the disadvantages, frankly, I've talked at international forums, I've seen none. Representing foreign investors, I've not seen any issue which holds me back from operating in the country. We've had no problem with the government authorities. I've had no need to provide any speed money, nothing. It's been all clean and efficient from the way we operated. So I think many investors like that. At international forums, people have said, hey, you can't get land in India. And I said, I've got land in industrial cities and industrial parks absolutely very easily, no problem at all. So there is a place where we can operate very easily. And I think that's noticed by many people. So with that in mind, what does it take really to be a strong, good engineering company, world-class and global? I'm going to keep on interspicing the world-class part with the export part. So bear with me on that. I truly believe, my mindset is, if you really want to be successful, don't be just in India, though I love India, be in exports also. Exports give you the huge advantage of volumes, of cash flow. I had in Sigma for 13 years, I had practically zero overdue outstandings. If my outstandings of a couple of $1 million went up by one day, there would be panic. And the next day, customer would have paid it, would have been a small minor error somewhere in the system, their end or my end, and it would be cleaned up. That's how efficient it is. But all of you know, in India today, cash flow is a big issue. Getting payments from any customer is an issue. So I always believe, if you have that chance or if you have that vision, do have a balance of having some business from abroad. It can make a difference. Most importantly, whatever margin you're making in India, I'm used to EBITDA, so I'll just call it EBITDA. Anywhere if you're making EBITDA of 15 to 20%, you'll get 5% more from abroad. It's that attractive. It's competitive. I'm not trying to tell you it's not competitive. Don't get me wrong. It's very competitive. It's brutally competitive. But you will get higher margins. So keep that in mind. And because foreign customers are looking for good vendors, they're looking partially to move away from China. Vietnam is too small. Mexico is a wonderful country I had die casting units in Mexico. But there is no country more dangerous in the world than Mexico. I'm sure you guys know this, but when not the current president who came in, the last president, I think it's about 4 years ago, when he came in that 1.5 month period, 1.5 months of election of the president, 17,000 people were murdered. That's how dangerous it is. You walk down the street and you get murdered. So Mexico is not a place, you go to Mexico because it's a gateway to America. Otherwise, it's not the place many people go. So again, I keep saying India is well positioned as a manufacturing base. Many countries worldwide are looking. They're looking for, where do you go in the world? We need to go beyond our own country because their own country have got less labor or got immigrants or high costs or a million problems. And with that in mind, they're looking for alternatives to go to. India becomes one of those attractives. And God bless, the government has been quite receptive and quite open to invite people in. That's why you've got Apple doing what it is. I'm sure you guys read, Apple have just announced they're going to manufacture the Pro Max series in India now, 15 and 16 and onwards. So there's a lot of attraction of coming in. Tesla's trying to come in. So keep that in mind, as these are all growth opportunities for us in India and globally. So world-class company, what does it take really? To my mind, the first thing for all of us that we should look at is, have the mindset that we want to be world class, we want to be global. And what does that really mean? For me, the first thing we should all look at is, are we focused on quality? We very often miss quality as the number one factor. If we can bring a quality to the global levels that people want, and then supply the same in India also. I think Indian customers also focusing on quality today, and a lot of companies, I would stick my neck on and say most companies miss that aspect. We don't measure our quality. And I will talk about some of my experiences and what we've done in a foundry environment in a few minutes. Cost competitiveness, that whole focus on being cost competitive is often missed. And remember, even in my plants in India with my global customers, they would want cost competitiveness and they'd expect me to share it. So I'd have to be open. So with Electrolux, Whirlpool, Stanley Black Decker, they'd say, okay, we'll have a lean program together. We'll jointly work on it, and you share the savings with us. So we'd have to share a fair amount of the savings with them. But I would get more business, my cost efficiency went up, and that cost efficiency learning I could then bring to other customers also, and not need to share the cost differential with them. I could keep that to myself. So these are some of the factors, and a couple of other things that I believe we often miss out. But the focus on green sustainability is really important. Sometimes we don't take that as something serious, but I believe you'll find more and more customers insisting on having a focus on green and in sustainability, and something that is really important. And again, we can talk more about that. People's skills is something we need to really be focused on. Training people is important, upskilling them is important. I know it's talked a lot about, but how much do we all really do? We're all busy, we're all day-to-day working. Is it possible to do that much of training? But if you don't do it, your whole organization is not going to go up. And compliances becomes really important. I mean, you're in the country, so and we'll talk about that, what I did at Sigma, but compliance is something you just have to live with. Now, the minute you do that, and you present yourself to a customer in India or abroad, or an MNC even in India, they notice this, they respect that. Frankly, you'd love to say, okay, I'm spending this amount of money on compliances and safety. Will I get a little more money? Not really. Nobody gives you more money. You'd love to believe you get it, but you don't. But at least you get the business. And it stays with you. It's sustainable. It stays with you from that point of view. So I'm just going to focus on some of the learnings that I got at Sigma and at Parker, what worked for us, what made us successful. When I joined the company in 2012, it was a nice company. It was a foundry. We were doing die casting, we were doing sand casting, we had a bit of gravity die cast, we had a bit of steel tube extrusion, and we were in India with 8 plants at that time. By the time I left, we'd gone to about 15 plants, with plants in the US and Mexico, and I did several new plants in India. When I joined, as I said, it was nice. It was exporting quite a lot, good relations with customers. And I'm being polite, but the plants were very average. And I've got ratings, I'm scoring, so I'll show you, I'll mention that to you in a moment, but really, really average. From there, the transformation that we did in shifting those plants in terms of changing the outlook of what they were and what we brought them to, and as I share the story, I'm hoping that will give you an idea and a path of what all of us need to do to become world-class companies, really. And that will make the difference. Focus has been, and so I'm going to give you some of the results today. That's why I noted them down. So when I joined, for me, lean, I was taught lean in Parker Hannifin. And just to share with you the background of lean, in the days when I was in Parker in the mid to late 90s and into 2000, lean had just got started, was getting quite active, and Parker was a leader in lean. So at that time, if you remember, Six Sigma was very popular with GE. But for lean, GE guys came to Parker, to give you an idea. That was how popular our programs were and how they learned. So we learned a lot from the Parker team. So I brought that learning into Sigma. So when I joined, out of this typical rating of lean and 5S is out of 5. So roughly the 8 plants of Sigma at that time were about 0.6, 0.7 out of 5. That's the best score I could give. That was the score given by my team later on, so less than 1. Lot of issues on safety, a lot of issues on everything. Over about 10 years, when towards the end of my tenure, we had brought that to an average of about 4.5, 4.6. So we changed them. And we didn't spend too much money, frankly. We just little by little chipped away at it, made them better, and a lot of collaboration from the team. We were unionized in some of the plants, and the union helped us a lot. So that was the difference. And I'm going to show you, when I talk later, I'll explain to you why that 5S and lean and everything that we did, why that made a difference from a customer perspective, and I'll share that with you. Rejections when I joined were 12%. These are numbers, by the way. I'm only able to share with you numbers that we have put up publicly in presentations in the past. I'm being very cautious. So I'm a shareholder, and I've got some obligations where I've got to be very careful what I put across. So these are all notes from what were publicly put across when we made presentations, and we in CII or other forums where we got some awards. So I'm using those numbers, so they're publicly available in that sense. So rejections from 12 went down to 3, and my vision was I wanted it to be in ppm, so I wanted 500 ppm, which is really tight for a foundry. It was close to impossible, but we were moving in that direction. So I can only tell you that when I left at 3, I know it's starting to move. It's slow now. The movement is much slow, but they are moving in the right direction downwards. We had some of the SMED that we did on a cold chamber die casting took us from 75 minutes down to 12 minutes. And that was repeated across several machines. When I would join Kaizen, we would do approximately about 10 Kaizens in a month. Then by the time we started becoming more active at all the plants, we were doing several hundred Kaizens per month across the plant, several hundred of them. Now you can imagine several hundred Kaizens, and you can see what that did in different ways to the plant, to the people, to the efficiency, to the productivity. It was a sea change in everything. We were doing Kaizen in anything that we could think about. It would even be just the whole paper flow we would change, and that could make a difference. TPM, we were not doing TPM for the first 4 years. By the time I left, we had nearly completed out of about 1550 machines, total, all the machines, we had done a TPM for about 1300 machines. And the benefit of doing TPM on these 1300 machines was productivity went up by 10 to 20%. Costs went down because the way we were running the machines, they became more efficient, so there was a cost saving. The cost of each machine, the TPM, even a die casting machine, was not in excess of some of the older die cast machines was not more than $10,000. I remember dollars because all my budgets, all my money was in dollars. We were exporting mostly. I'm sure, as you know, 93% of our total exports, manufacturing in India was exported. So machine life went up by 5 to 7, 8 years, and so that made a huge difference to the whole operation as we went along. One or two of the Kaizens, I'm not getting into too many of them, but these were, we got awards for this next one. Wherever you have your exporting your goods and you put them in pallets, and then you got a wooden pallet in between, we removed the wooden pallet and we put a slip sheet in, and we had a special device that we had made to take the slip sheet out and put it in, and we had that same at our warehouse in America. We had a 200,000 square feet warehouse in America. That brought us a saving of nearly 1.7 crores per annum in terms of extra space in the container. The cost of the wooden pallet was saved, and as you know, wooden pallet and wood, and all of it comes along with all the other extra. We got, by the way, once we were so careful, very careful in all of this, but we got caught once. There was some infestation in the wood which went sneak through. You're bringing wooden pallets from outside, and one of those got through and got caught by the Americans. We shifted our gas furnaces to electric, and that saved us another nearly 1.8, 1.9 crores per annum. We did a lot of focus on green, on power, on water, and we measured it. I would get reports every month on how much water we were saving, how much power we were saving, how much we had gone green, how much of solar we had brought on because we started putting solar in, and that gave us a fair amount of savings as we went along. Another favorite of mine which I learned at Parker, and I'm sure many of you follow it, but for me it became our mission at Parker. It started. The chairman one day stood up in the early 1900s, 1995, 96, and said, I want all you guys to focus on customer service. It'll be here what's called premier customer service, and the only one definition I want is on-time delivery. If you meet on-time delivery, customers will be happy and everything else will fall in place. And it was a very strict on-time delivery measure. The customer gives you an order and he says, I want it in 15 days. So either you deliver it in 15 days or you have the right to go back and tell the customer, will you agree to 20 days or 30 days? If he agrees, then your measure is 30 days. If he doesn't agree, right, like it or not like it, you are measured against 15 days. And it had to be, if he's placed an order for 100, you have to give him 100. If you give him 101, you get 0 score. If you give him 99, you get 0 score. So that is how we measured the on-time delivery. And in India, the on-time delivery, when this measure started, we were in the range of 60. In Parker, we went to 95. In Sigma, it was in the same range, about 55 odd percent in Sigma. And that went to 96, 97% for what I will call special parts, for special customers, OEMs. And because material was shipped from India to US for delivery to retail customers in US, that went to 99.9. We had the ability to execute practically 100% for the retail customers, because those were more standardized parts. But it made a huge difference. Frankly, no customer would leave us with these sort of ratings, because that on-time delivery meant everything for them. And it's been proven. I can't say I saw much of it, but I can confirm to you, no customer left us. Did I get extra margin because of that? I'm not too sure. I like to believe we did, but I'm not able to measure that and tell you, yes, we did get an extra percent or two. But we tried our best. We kept sneaking away we played the foreign exchange differential and tried. And customer, now, because my on-time delivery was good, they don't give me directly there, but when I'm negotiating for price and say, hey, 3 years ago, the exchange rate was so-and-so, today it should be so-and-so, this is all you should get. The relationship would be such and the performance would be such, you'd be able to sneak in a little extra in your negotiations and they'd give it away, knowing that, okay, these are good guys, let's keep them on. So in that indirect way, margin also was improved. When we joined, we had 0 robots when I joined Sigma. By the time I left, we would have 30, 35 robotics running around in the plant, and that made a big difference to our efficiency. And these were very low-cost robotics, by the way. And then I further learned, and you guys would know more than me, I picked up new robots. When I was looking at an acquisition recently, about 2 years ago in India, I saw wonderful robots, and I learned from that company that they were buying them from Pune. And they were buying them at half the price or 70% the price. This guy, he's in Pinnacle, I just can't remember the name, but I can get it for you guys. And he was buying lots of these robots from all over the world. Because if somebody's going into the next generation of robo, they'd scrap several hundred of these robots of the older generation, but they're very much usable and very much workable and in really good shape for India. He'd bring these here. So there's an opportunity to go robotic with lower cost opportunities. We had thousands of subcontract labor when I joined, and that's not a healthy way to run a business. So we started cutting down on subcontract, and we went into an apprenticeship program where we hired about 1,500 diploma trainees every year. So we rotate them for 2 years. So 1,000 to 1,500 we brought on board. Not easy, I can tell you. When you're used to managing subcontract labor, and then your IR, HR people and the plant people are told, okay guys, manage these 12,000 youngsters. Not easy. And then a couple of hundred ladies in that, it went crazy. So we had all sorts of issues going on for the first 2-3 years. it ultimately settled down and was a really good, and it still is a really good program. When we joined, we had our own SPM division where we used to make our own machines, and that was one of our sources of competitiveness. Just imagine you want a special purpose machine, and you go out in the market to buy it, and it costs you, let's call it 50 lakhs, and the guy says, I'll make it in 8 months or 7 months. And here we could design it in-house. I could make it at 50% of the cost, and I could get it in 4 months, 3 to 4 months. See the cost advantage and the manufacturing advantage we had. So from about 8 to 10 machines per annum, we went to 50 machines. We were making 50 to 60 machines in a year. Small little place of our own, but more of assembly, design assembly. Most of it, all the hydraulics, all the attachments were outsourced, but it was a big advantage for us. I'm a big fan of diversity. When I joined Parker, and I'm talking India, India had only 10 ladies and about 3,000 people. By the time I left in Pune, Pune and Jaipur, apologies, in India rather, we had about 500. And okay, there are not too many ladies here, but I can make a comment to you if you don't mind my saying so. The ladies did a far better job than the men. They were far more efficient, far more dedicated. Maybe some of them were the youngsters were very needy also. And we got feedback. There's some of these, we had family members, parents phoning us up and telling us that they were really grateful that their daughters had a job because they were the sole bread earners. So I realized there's a social aspect here of hiring ladies, and it's proven that if we could bring our percentage of women in the workforce up to about, the ideal is 49% of our population is women. If we could bring them up from the current 4-5%, whatever that percentage, and double it or go to that can add 2 to 3% to our GDP. And I can tell you, it made a big difference to us. On the automation side, we had less than 10 odd projects for automation, robotics. By the time I left, we had nearly 200 to 250 projects where we had executed them for automation. In fact, my colleague Nilesh, in those days, he was running Engine and still is running it, and he and me are now partners in another company, but at that time he helped us also bring on some automation and robotics, which helped us in our plant. One thing we did, I won't tell you what it was before, I can just tell you the end, we were 100% compliant. We had no deviation at all, zero, nothing. In any front. Is it the Factory Act? Is it the Labor Act? Is it you name it, and we were 100%. I had to stand up in a global meeting in New York and confirm that we were 100% compliant, and I would have had my neck slashed if I was not compliant or anything illegal was going on. Now, that becomes a huge source of competitive advantage when you're talking to a customer, or a customer wants to do an audit on you, and it doesn't take long. Auditors, they can audit you, and in 2 minutes they'll find out if you've got some garbage going on your labor front or anything going wrong. They will catch it very, very quickly. We did a lot of, with our ERP, we did a lot on data analytics. We did a lot on sensors, RFIDs, 3D printing. We put up we had a beautiful R&D center. We really revamped our R&D center and made it world class. So when customers walked in, they say, hey, we want you to develop much more for us. So that became a nice source of competitive advantage from our point of view. Towards the end, we brought in AR, augmented reality, and these are not costly. Don't think that I'm throwing you big numbers and these are very costly affairs. There are a few not costly, but they made a big difference in our ability to present information to customers, present to our own people on training front using this sort of HoloLens from Microsoft. The outstanding products. Roughly over a period of that 8-10 years, from 100 million we went to 300 million plus, 8 odd plants to about 14-15 with plants abroad also. I think and profitability went up. If you ask me, you'll ask me, give me tangible proof. Money is fine. And I'll just give you 1 or 2 stories that I remember so well, and I'll give you with names. So we had the global head of procurement of Whirlpool come to meet us. I remember her name was Elizabeth. She went to visit the plants with my colleagues, and then she came to meet me in my office in Pune. The factory was in Chakan. It's still in Chakan. So as she came in, she said, Viren, I'm embarrassed. So I thought, God, what are we? I thought, sorry for me. I thought we were screwed up. I thought we've done something really wrong. Why is she embarrassed? I thought, what have we done? I mean, I know I'm not getting. We had nice. I mean, the ladies' toilets, the bath, everything was good, but we had done them up. We had gone to that extent to make sure that everything was perfect. You know that there was no inconvenience in any way. I said, God, what have we done now? And she said, I'm embarrassed because when I came here to see your plants, I thought, I'm sure your plants are nowhere near what I'm used to in America. And here I come and see you guys, what plants you have here, and I'm really impressed. I'm really happy that they're far, far better than anything I've seen in the US. And I thought that was a nice compliment to get from a global head of purchase from Whirlpool. And they're pretty sticky. I've seen their plants, they're nice plants, the American plants, but nowhere near what we had in India. And I had a similar reaction for my largest customer, Eaton. Eaton globally was our largest customer in the US, in excess of $30-40 million. And they were very close to us. Their global head of that operation came in to meet us, and he was a manufacturing guy, and he just loved what we were doing. And I'd seen the American plants. I knew what they were. They were nice plants, but they were not great. Compared to that, we were far, far ahead. And he kept referring to us in many of his global meets. In talking to his board of directors, he kept referring that these are the sort of manufacturing facilities he would like to have. These are sort of vendors he would like to have as a supplier. I thought that was a great advantage. Last one is from the world's largest hardware retailer, Home Depot. Home Depot, again, global procurement head came in. She came in with a bodyguard, by the way. So I had to tease her, so what are you doing with a bodyguard? You're safe out here. She said, it's corporate policy to travel with a bodyguard. So I said, okay. So she came in and said the same thing practically in different words. She said, why am I not buying from? We were supplying indirectly. We were not supplying to her directly. We were supplying to some of our large customers. And she said, I want you guys to supply direct. I mean, you guys are so good. Many of your products I'd like to buy. You're weatherproof and whatnot. I want to buy it. So again, your plans talk for you. Your operations talk for you. Your compliances, the way the way your workforce and our workforce was very engaged. Anybody would walk up to anybody in the plant and talk to them, and they would be very enthusiastic to explain what they're doing. So I think that makes all the difference. I just wanted to leave you with that thought that, we might think that we're investing a lot in the plant or trying to become efficient or bringing a lot of automation in or a lot of robotics in. But if you do this in a phased manner, customers recognize it and will reward you for it. So for me, I think I think if we dream that we want to become world-class, we want to become global, you want to bring lean, you want to bring automation, and you want to bring efficiency in, and you want to become successful, you can make it happen. I can assure you of that. I've seen it several times over, and I'm doing it again. As I mentioned to you, I'm an entrepreneur. My colleague Nilesh and myself have joined up, and we're trying to do the same in automation, robotics, by trying to expand. He has a successful business that we're now trying to grow bigger. But I'm seeing that it's possible in this country and worldwide. So just leave you with that message. If you agree, maybe a few minutes. If you like, anybody has got any questions, that's fine. Anything I'm willing to answer.
When you acquire a foreign company, being an Indian company, and a foreign company acquire an Indian company, what are the major challenges which you feel that you have to face? Because the Indian culture and the foreign culture, there is a major difference when those people give the focus on the documentation much. So can you just focus on something?
So a small correction there, just to make a point. Sorry, I should have explained that Sigma was always a US company. So we were headquartered in the US. So headquarters was in North Carolina. And so we had a US company also, and we had the Indian entities. So yes, the bulk of the people, bulk of the operation was in India, but culturally we had a strong head office. I was based in Chakan for a couple of years, then I relocated to the US. So in that sense, the acquisitions were done through the US company. So to that extent, it was culturally not an issue. At the same time, to answer your question, a lot of the acquisition team members who are from India. So to that extent, yes. And if the question is more around culture, it was a cultural challenge. I mean, acquiring a company even in the US, and many of the manufacturing skill sets were coming from my Indian team. It is an issue which does take time to settle down. But fortunately, because 90% of our manufacturing in India also was exports, we were tuned all along, so all our customers were coming from abroad. On a jocular note, and I'm serious with this, in my total business of, let's say, 250, 300 million, I had zero outstandings on the global side of it. But the outstandings in India on that 50 crores, I could weep to death on it. Crompton Greaves would never pay me on time, and I could go on. It was horrible. I mean, and we said, why are we doing business with these guys if they don't pay us on time? But we had a whole line set up for the guys. So it was even difficult to get out of Crompton Greaves. Just to give you one example, and I'm thinking, God, I'm supplying so much to the fans. Which can these guys not give some relief to me? The only time they would pay me on time is in summer. That time they would. Summer में आ जाता था, बराबर time पे आ जाता था. Otherwise, winter आया तो बात ही. They would not talk to us. They were crazy. So culturally, we had an advantage. But to your point, it was difficult. It was never easy. I found it, maybe I'd spent a lot of time abroad. So I found it easier. But my team members and the acquired company always had an issue.
I'm Vaibhav Karmarkar. I would like to share some of my experience with Sigma.
Okay.
And we are vendors, suppliers for Sigma for past more than 2 decades, I can say.
What's the name of the company?
Tech sales and services.
Okay.
Close to 3 decades, I can say. Right from Sage, Semco, Sigma, we have witnessed all the transformations, different ownerships, and of course the leaderships. We have also witnessed what I would like to highlight here is what you mentioned earlier in your speech is.
Sorry, I must make. I didn't realize that I had somebody from who knew Sigma so well.
So,
Fine.
some of the special mentions I can see about Sigma, what we have seen over the years. As you mentioned, is one of the thing very special is the SPMs. We have seen it's fantastic. The Kaizens or the housekeeping, the systems, truly world class. I mean, we can as a vendor, as a supplier, or as a die caster, I think Sigma has set some benchmarks in the industry. And yes, we are truly honored or privileged to be a vendor of Sigma for last so many years.
Thank you. Much appreciate that. Thanks.
It was nice talk, and you explained all these improvements that you made using Lean Sigma, automation, and SPMs and everything, backed by some solid data in terms of monitoring. One thing I would like to understand is you mentioned about your R&D center, new technology development R&D. That's close to my heart and my role also in GDC Tech. So how did that help you in terms of improved profits or whatever? How monetary gains? How could you harness monetary gains out of R&D efforts that you put in? And what was the gestation period? Because at times it takes a long time for these things to.
It does. So, great question again. One is we had a very solid pipeline of new product development. Well, I put together a very nice little report, but it was nice and colorful, and it had. So we knew what we were developing, who was the customer, what was the potential, how much would we have to invest in it, how long would it take, and then we'd monitor it by what stage we were going through. So in that sense, the R&D engineering center team were reviewed regularly, and they knew that was something close to our heart. They knew it was close to our commercial. It was a need for developing commercially, so they understood that importance. And it was a major source of growth from our point of view, both in terms of new products that Sigma developed for the market directly, and for a customer coming, Stanley Black Tech would say, I want you to develop this for us, or here is a product, but I want this change on it. So that team would do the same. So we track all of that. And as those came through and we kept pushing to make them faster, that was where it commercially made a big difference. So one is that. The payback is a little more difficult. Some of them were quite fast because it depends on the volume pickup from the customer, end customer. If I could move, and it depended on my ability to move fast also. If I could commercialize that and bring it to what we called full-fledged production in less than 2 years. It took us up to 1.5, 2 years to bring it to if I could do that in 2 years, my payback was by the 3rd or 4th year in terms of this. And all new projects, most new business required me to bring in some assets. So I had to develop some machine tools, sometimes die casting, sometimes sand casting, but more was on the SPMs and the machine tools that I'd have to bring into the system. Okay, right. So again, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your questions, appreciate your interest, and I truly believe, I hope all of you would get excited and let's all of us work together. Use the GDC platform, I think is one of the best ways, but we all should do more. Is my only request to all of you. You've all got good companies, good business setups. I know your company already well. So I'm saying do more and let us all work together and make sure we do more together. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause.
So many thanks for such wonderful coffee talk with us. I also thanks Mr. Devreji for his kind support to GDC Tech so that we can organize more program on this. So thank you for your sponsorship. I also thanks RK Conference for arranging such nice programs and the team of photo shoot and video for doing good work. Many thanks to all. Good evening and happy weekends. Thank you very much.